It is indeed a policy proposal well within the bounds of legal advocacy. My clients have done nothing wrong, and we respectfully ask that this court dismiss this case in its entirety. Thank you.
Somebody said boo.
Remember, this is a trial, so since it's a trial, let's just hear from the witnesses and the lawyers. All right. With that in mind, plaintiff will call his first witness.
The plaintiff called John Cash, the fan.
Cash? Yes, sir. Seems to me like I recognize that man. Okay. I'm sure you will tell the court why I recognize that that's not. But for purposes of this proceeding, more place I know, raise your right hand. You swear affirm to tell the whole truth, but the truth. So help you God in accordance with the rules of this new court proceeding.
I do, Your Honor.
All right. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cash, can you please state your name for the record?
John Marcus Cash.
Okay, Mr. Cash, can you briefly explain your professional background and qualifications?
Okay, aside from being born in a very civil, active family.
Oh, he's in line.
I have a- Aside from being publicly educated and from a very historically civil rights active family since the 1800s.
Can y'all hear him?
Hello? We good?
Pick it up and put it to your mouth.
How's this?
Yeah.
John Marcus Cash in Huntsville, Alabama. Is that good? Yeah. All right.
And I'll ask you a question again, Mr.
Okay.
Cash. Mr. Cash, can you briefly explain your professional background and qualifications?
I merely went through public schools in Huntsville, Alabama, then University of Alabama 5 semesters, broadcasting film communications, transferred to Texas Southern University Geological Petroleum Engineering Technology, submitted a master's thesis in constitutional history on all the banking, coinage, and commerce clauses of the U.S. Constitution. Read every single act of commerce and coinage from 1700 to 1984, approved by the department, and I was also a member of the National Congress of Black Political Scientists, and I'm a son of a founding member of one of two statewide parties in the United States founded by black individuals, NDPA, National Democratic Party of Alabama, 1966 to 1976. The other party being the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party of Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. Can you explain to the court what do you mean by systematic inequalities?
Well, systematic inequalities refer to deeply entrenched and pervasive patterns of discrimination and disadvantage that exist within social structures, such as in education, the workplace, housing, and healthcare. These inequities are not caused by individual actions, but are result of long-standing policies and practices that have disproportionately impacted certain groups based on race, gender, ethnicity, and other factors.
So, Mr. Cash, in your research and experience, have you found that these inequalities continue to exist today?
Yes, absolutely. Systematic inequalities are widespread even in 2020. Despite significant progress in civil rights, bias and discrimination continue to affect people in all walks of life. We see this in hiring practices, access to education, wage gaps, and leadership opportunities, just to name a few areas.
So, Mr.
the truth of the matter is, every child of God that makes a step forward helps all children of God. You try now to prevent equality. When the forces that are against DEI really are against equality, really they are against racial justice, really they would like to see a homogenization, they would like to see a revision of American history. And that's why I think this trial is so important.
Thank you. No further questions.
Open examination.
You don't want to.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, for being here.
Thank you.
You testified that you were a member of the NAACP as president,
Yes. 1993, 1994.
and it's been the NAACP position that all people are created equal,
That's correct.
regardless of race.
Yes.
The Heritage Foundation, according to the NAACP, is trying to take us back to segregation. Is that your stance on the DEI program?
I agree with the NAACP. The Heritage Foundation is a well-funded, far right-wing research organization that comes up with all these pseudo programs to try to take America backwards under the guise of moving America forward. The so-called Make America Great Again is making America ignorant again.
And as I recall, the NAACP used Dr. Clark to experiment with black children. They prefer white dogs, correct?
I wouldn't call it an experiment with black children. What Dr. Clark did was expose the impact of racism in America on the consciousness. Racism is just not something that deals with prejudice. Racism also is something that deals with your consciousness. How do you see yourself when you look in the mirror? How do you see other people when they look in the mirror? And how do other people see themselves vis-a-vis how they see us, people of color? So what Dr. Clark did, he was not the only one for the NAACP, but he was a scholar. And yes, his test showed that the young people that were interviewed preferred a white dog because they had been socialized to prefer white dogs. They had been miseducated to support white dogs. And his great research led to the Brown decision in 1954, where the Supreme Court unanimously voted that racial discrimination was unconstitutional in the United States of America.
But when you see that as a preference, you're saying that it's a mind thing, a conscious decision, but isn't that a preference also?
No,
for a
ma'am.
black child to want to be equal to a white child?
Well, first of all children are equal. So this notion that black people have to prove their equality is part of the problem. White people don't have to prove their equality. So why do black people have to prove their equality?
Hey! No further questions, Your
First of all, thank you for your question. The fact that you would ask me that question is an indication of your miseducation.
He did not want to be over there.
And you're a young man, I believe in redemption. You can be redeemed.
Micah did not want to be over
Get
there.
on the other side of the aisle. You ought to be standing up here questioning the people that are trying to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion. Who's against diversity?
Hold, Captain, hold.
Well, I'm asking this question. What?
What's your objection? Overruled.
Sir, I realize, sir, you were given questions to ask, and I respect you. So I'm gonna respect you and give you the answer. It seems to me that we live in a society that uses code words. And these code words have deep historical meaning, deep historical reality. A lot of what we do in the present shapes the future. That's why we're here in Selma, Alabama on the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Why do we have to have the Voting Rights Act? Because people were discriminated against. People were told they could not vote unless they could take some fake test.
Objection, Your Honor, completely non-responsive. He was simply asked whether or not his multiple degrees from those many institutions were based on programs that Authorsof made.
Response from the plaintiff. As to that objection.
Your Honor, we think that he is answering the question. If you allow him to get to the end of his answer, we would ask to allow him to continue his answer so that he can properly answer the question because he wasn't finished yet.
Objection overruled.
So let me give, I'm a preacher, so the answer to the question is at the end of my remarks. Not at the beginning. The degrees that I have were not given. I earned them.
Come on.
Secondly, the degrees that I have were not because someone gave me an opportunity and took away an opportunity from somebody else.
Okay.
When I finished high school in 1964 in Oxford, North Carolina, I was a chemistry major. But the North Carolina State University would not admit me. They told me to my face, because I was black and wanted to study science, that they were not going to admit me, even though I made the highest score on the admission test. That's what I mean by racial discrimination. So the flip side of your question is, why aren't more people with these earned degrees that I have in our community? And it's because of the systematic history and current contemporary manifestation of racial injustice.
Okay, so to follow up with that question, do you think you obtained your degree because you were black or because you worked hard for it?
I attained my degree because I'm blessed to be born as a child of God. And it had nothing to do with race, but since you raised the race question, just let me give you a education. There's only one race. That's the human race. And all this trying to create a hierarchical evaluation of people based on their skin color, based on their nose, based on their lips, based on their hair, based on how they wear their clothes, is fictitious and no scientific basis for it. There was no such thing as race before the transatlantic slave trade. It was created by the Europeans to make sure to justify the enslavement of people of African descent. And so you have to understand where do these notions come from. They're very, very deep-seated, they're very, very historical, and unfortunately, we have an administration in Washington today that's trying to whitewash the history. They're trying to whitewash the truth. But we're here in Selma to say that we're not going backwards. I think Marcus Garvey said it best. Forward ever, backward never.
Okay. Okay.
Further questions?
No, Your Honor. That
Why do people leave? All the parties for they are prejudiced and white people leave. All the
White people leaving.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sellout. How are
Good
you?
afternoon, Sally out. You mispronounced my name. Sally out.
Miss Celia. Miss Celia.
So, you stated that Project 2025 is designed to fulfill the founding fathers' promises. Would you agree that those promises include upholding a high standard of personal integrity and accountability?
No,
Given that many of our founding fathers emphasize moral character and leadership, how do you reconcile that with the idea that a convicted felon is serving as president?
they were felons, they just were convicted. George Washington was a rapist just like Trump.
So I'm gonna ask my question about, I want to answer my question, I'll repeat it, okay? My question says, given that most of the founding fathers emphasize moral character and leadership, how do you reconcile that with the idea of a convicted felon serving as president?
The only reason why George Washington wasn't a convicted felony because he wasn't put on trial. Because at the time it was legal to rape a black woman.
So, Ms. Celia.
Ain't too much difference between George Washington and Trump. Trump is more
Your
honest.
Honor, I'm gonna ask that you direct the witness to answer my question.
Let's ask the question. Please.
So my question, I'm sorry. So basically my question is, how do you reconcile the idea of a convicted felon serving as president of the United States of America?
The only reason why George Washington, Thomas Jefferson were convicted felons because it was legal to rape black women.
That's right.
If it had not been legal, they would be convicted felons too.
But we're talking about today in 2025.
But you asked a question about the past.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
I'm gonna sustain that objection. Move on, please.
So, in the
The lazy people, it talk is the lazy people, people who don't want handouts, who want handouts because of the color of their skin or who they know. No, that's who it talk is. There's too much waste in this land.
Are you talking about the Mexicans that have come across the fence illegally?
The Mexicans discriminate too. I'm talking about them too. If they ain't working hard, if they've taken the black jobs, I'm talking about them too.
What about those, I can't say the N word, but
What's wrong with what they said in the raps? Ask all these rappers, they talk, they use the N-word all the time. See, that's the problem. When the black folk use the N-word, it's all right. But when the white folk use it, y'all got a problem. Not you, I'm on your side.
is there any constitutional or legal requirement that mandates DEI programs in federal agencies?
Absolutely not. Let's get the record straight. Slavery was bad. I'm not gonna sit up here and say white folk were right to enslave black people. It was wrong. But how many years would it take for us to get on our own feet and pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps? It's time to stop making excuses. Slavery's been over how many years? 150 years. And let me tell you this. Do you know that after slavery ended, black people gained 15 million acres of land through hard work and ingenuity? There was no DEI. They did it through hard work. They came out of slavery and owned their own land and built their own schools. Even when there was segregation, they built their own schools. And guess what? I went to one of those segregated schools. And look at me. I'm almost a millionaire. And I ain't no athlete.
You do have black friends, do you?
Martha, you out there like one white
And you've worked Or you worked with George Wallace years ago.
No, 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 no! I ain't that bad. I ain't that kind of stuff. No, no, no. Me and George Wallace did not know we don't miss. George Wallace kept me from going to law school in Alabama because even though I was #1 in my class, there was a law back then that said you couldn't go to Alabama. He used to be on the trustee board, by the way. Couldn't go. So I'm not George Wallace. But Trump is different.
How different?
Y'all just face it. Trump is a bully. And America likes bullies. We like bullies. Now, a bully, I mean, he tells it like it is. He don't fake it. Look at those other presidents. They did just as bad as, they did things worse than Trump. They've been using that executive power. Even Nigeria's, what's his name, Mr. Franklin Roosevelt? He put them Japanese people in jail, in concentration camps. He was a Democrat. I don't know why y'all just pick on your old Mr. Trump. I think because he's old like me.
You're talking about Mr. Trump. He did hire two people of color to his administration this year. Did he not?
I thought it was 5. You mean he lied to me? He told me he support 5 black people. You mean it was just 2? We got a problem with that. I gotta see him about that. I'm trying to be no witness, but if he lied to me, we got a problem. He told me that he was gonna have 5 Negroes.
Explain how existing anti-discrimination laws such as Title VII provide protections without the need of DEI offices?
I answered that question. I'm not that unusual. I'm a typical black woman. Why can't these people just work hard like I did, like my mama did, like my grandmama did? We don't need DEI if we just work hard and stop believing that we're inferior. See, the problem is not the white man, the problem is we think we're inferior. Ain't nobody passed no law to make us think that we're inferior. We believe we're inferior, we believe they're superior, and because of our beliefs, we don't do our best. So we can blame ourselves instead of that white man.
Why do you believe hiring and promotion should be based on merit rather than DEI-driven initiatives?
I believe black people are just as smart as any people on earth. Who do you think built those pyramids, child? You think a white man did that? And long before there was a Bible verse, there were principles of Muhammad started by black people. We just don't know our history. And long before they banned them black books, right here in Selma, they won't have no black history. They got all black board. Not one single course, not even in civil rights history. They don't even teach those children about Sunday Sunday. Don't stop playing with white folk for this. Black people ain't doing what they should teach their own children. We are responsible. Let's stop blaming Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump is a wake-up call, and we better wake up.
And you're of the Republican Party, correct?
I'm not a Republican.
Independent?
I ain't that big of an actress. I'm not a Republican.
Representative Ward, can you please state your name for the record?
My name is Maxine Waters.
And can you tell the court what position do you currently hold?
I'm
I'm a member of the United States Congress, and I am the
Hold
ranking
that,
member.
hold that mic, everybody wants to hear you. You have to sit up there.
Right here.
Thank you very much. I'm a member of Congress, the House of Representatives, and I am the ranking member of the Financial Services Committee.
Yes.
Thank you. Representative Waters, could you please describe your initial reaction when you first learned about the outline policies of Project 2025?
Oh my goodness, well, first of all, the Heritage Foundation developed a booklet on 2025, which was distributed all over the country, everywhere. And so I read the booklet, and then I held some community meetings on 2025 to help expose what was being proposed for this country.
As a longtime advocate for civil rights, do you believe that the proposals in Project 2025 align with the principles of equality and justice that you worked for throughout your career?
Let me just explain what Project 25 really is. This proposal that was organized so-called by the Heritage Foundation is really the Trump vision of what America should be and what he was going to make it. And so he lied when he said that he had nothing to do with it. He was there leading it all along. And you see now how they're carrying it out and what they're doing with dismantling the departments of government.
Thank you. In your professional opinion, does Project 2025 represent an attempt to undo the civil rights protections that have been established over the past several decades?
No, as a matter of fact, Project 2025 is designed to undo the gains that were made under the civil rights actions that we took in this country. As a matter of fact, you have to understand when they proposed Project 2025, the aim and the mission was about getting rid of many of the developments, whether they were legislative and even constitutional, that have allowed black and brown and people of color to rise to the levels of success they have. They want to put an end to it. And when you saw the President of the United States stand up, I think it was during the inauguration, with all the billionaires in this country. The white billionaires of this country have decided that they were going to stop this upward mobility. And so when they attack diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's the old argument about affirmative action. We changed the name of affirmative action because they were successful in making people believe that people were somehow getting what they didn't deserve, that we were not smart enough, we didn't know enough, and somebody was giving us something. They worked hard at it, but we didn't fight hard enough to push back and to tell the truth. But we have come to the point where we have developed what is known as diversity, equity, and inclusion. I created the first subcommittee of my committee when I chaired that committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Prior to that, I had developed something called Onye, the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. So we've been moving for years now, since the dismantlement of affirmative action, to get back in the game of how we can achieve upward mobility in the major corporations of America, how we cannot be overlooked, how we can demand or put into law or to practice what can be done to eliminate the racism and exclusion that's been going on for too many years now.
Thank you. How would the policies in Project 2025 potentially affect working class families and communities of color in your district?
Well, let me just tell you, when you take a look at the actions that are being taken by what we now call the co-president, Elon Musk. As a matter of fact, if I'm allowed to say, do you know that one of the missions of Elon Musk from SpaceX that took off, failed. I think it was just yesterday. I think he should go back to what he knows and get out of government.
Representative Ward, given your position as a representative of one of the most diverse districts in the nation, how do you believe Project 2025 approach to social and economic policies will impact your constituents' access to critical services like healthcare, housing, and education?
Well, let me just tell you this. There are 880 million people on Medicaid. Medicaid is a serious way by which people get health care that could not afford it prior to Medicaid. People will die. People will not get the services. People will not have an opportunity, and particularly people of color, to be able to deal with those diseases that are prominent in our communities. And so it is very dangerous. The Department of Education, they want to shut it down. They want to shut it down, and this is serious, because that's where all your student loan money is. That's where you have money for the Title I programs. Title I are educational programs for the schools in low-income communities that provide for children and families all of that which may be available in wealthy families. The children have cultural activities, they have food, they have trips, they have all kinds of things that are available to privileged children. And this is very serious. If they get rid of Title I, then our communities are going to suffer. So whether you're talking about healthcare or education or housing, as a matter of fact, I went over to the Department of Education early in the morning with about 25 other members. It was very cold outside. They would not let us in. We also attempted to go into Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, another thing that was created to deal with the rip-offs and the fraud that takes place for major corporations in this country. We could not get in, they're shutting that down. And HUD, folks, I want you to know that's Section 8. That's all of the housing opportunity. That's for the homeless. We have 770,000 again, people on the streets. And we're steady trying to appropriate more and more money to deal with this homelessness. Now they're going to erase all of that. So education, housing, medical, all of those things are at risk, but jobs are at risk. You know, I am reminded of what was known as sundown towns. Sundown towns was when they told people of color, be out of town by 5 o'clock. Well, Elon Musk is telling people, get out of your office, be out by 5 o'clock, and running them out. And so we have a fight on our hands. Now, I know this is not a rally, this is a courtroom, and I'm trying to answer your question, but hell, we got a fight on our hands.
Your Honor, I can't hear.
I have no other questions. If you're not on a representative Ward, I send her a weekly journal.
She refused to be cross-examined.
Representative Collum. Okay, in order for your testimony to be considered as evidence in this proceeding, you have to submit to cross-examination.
It's funny.
Representative Waters, you mentioned the word billionaires a couple of times during your direct testimony. You have no problem with billionaires, do you?
Well, I believe that everyone deserves a good quality of life and to be able to accumulate wealth. But the systems that have been developed in this country are designed to keep people of color out of the business of building wealth. This is a money game, and you will not see us at Wall Street in any appreciable numbers. And as the former chair of the Financial Services Committee, I deal with everything from the SEC, that is Securities and Exchange Commission, the Treasury, the Federal Reserve, the OCC, the FDIC. I know all of these agencies, and guess what? We're not represented in any appreciable numbers. And so I have to tell you that it is not that I don't believe in wealth. I believe that we should have the opportunity to build wealth. And that's what we're excluded from.
You are familiar with a lady from Tennessee, Mississippi, named Oprah Winfrey, who is a billionaire.
That's right.
Oprah Winfrey went to Tennessee State University.
That's right.
And Oprah Winfrey became a billionaire not because of DEI, but because she was a bad sister.
And there are a lot of bad sisters. All bad sisters get an opportunity. Of course, talent certainly is instrumental in helping to build wealth. Certainly contacts are instrumental in helping to build wealth. And of course you can build wealth if you're crooked and you're a thief and you cheat. So there's so many ways to build wealth. All that we want is fair opportunity to build wealth. We're not against billionaires. We're against 1% of this country being able to pay less taxes than all of America.
Michael Jordan is a billionaire, correct?
Yes.
And no program taught him how to float like that. Yes. He earned his billion.
That's right.
Without program.
Well, let me just say this. How many people in the audience are billionaires? Well, let me just tell you this, and you know this to be true. A few of us have been able to arise to the position of billionaires. And it oftentimes is because of talent, in particular the athletes of America who happen to be people of color have been able to build wealth because of the talent that they have, as athletes. But what we're talking about is justice and equality for all people and equal opportunity. Yes. We're not talking about you gotta be special in order to build wealth. We're talking about if you play by the basic rules, and many people have done that and continue to do that. They wake up every morning and they go to a job. They wake up every morning and they go to school and they work hard and they do everything that they're told to do, but they'll never reach it because the systems are designed to keep them out and to exclude. That's the difference between the ones that you're naming and what you're trying to prove, that anybody can become a billionaire. If that's what you're trying to prove, you're on the wrong track.
And even on that wrong track, you would have to agree with me that those were some meritorious African Americans who would have made it by their work, their grit, and their skill, regardless of a program.
The ones that I'm alluding to, and the athletes, Jordan, that you're alluding to, if they couldn't handle that ball, they wouldn't be millionaires or billionaires. They did it because of some physical ability that they had. But no, if they had not had that, they would probably be like most of us, working every day, trying to have a decent quality of life.
Now, as we move from billionaires to regular Americans,
yes,
the programs of the Department of Education that you referenced,
yes,
certain housing and welfare programs that you referenced, under Project 2025, wouldn't those same programs be implemented in states like Idaho, in Montana, in South Dakota, that would affect folks that are not predominantly black and in those areas, just like they would people in the sundown town.
Oh, well, let me tell you, there are a lot of people who voted for Trump who are having buyer's remorse. Because they didn't know they were gonna get caught up in it. And I tell you, when they're cleaning out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and Education and HUD and all of that, and they're wiping out employees, some of them are saying, oh, but I thought, oh, I didn't know, I should have known, I didn't know that it was gonna hit me too. So some of them are gonna have a learning that they never anticipated.
So you would agree with me that when it hits, it's gonna hit people regardless of their race?
Well, yes, I'm gonna tell you this, that many of those people who are going to be hit never anticipated. Some of them are saying, I voted for him and I still want him to do what he said he's gonna do on immigration. I still want him to get rid of birthrights in the United States of America. I didn't think about me and that I was going to get hit and somehow I was gonna lose my job. And so there's some ignorant folks who think that they're so privileged and they're so white that this stuff is not gonna hit them. But the more the polls come out and the more the people understand what is happening, and the more of them understand that they're going to fit under preliminary employees that were supposed to be able to get buyouts, etc., and it's not going to work for them, then maybe in the next election, we're going to have a different kind of president, and it won't be a Trump.
Sorry, ma'am, I respect you so much. You did a great job.
Sometimes you don't feel.
We do not have a rule.
Did you get up to ask additional questions?
Just one more question now.
No, Your Honor, I'm gonna object. This is not her weakness. This is not her weakness.
We want to call her the adverse witness.
Oh.
I'm gonna object to, opposing counsel coming up to question Representative Waters, but this is not her weakness.
Overruled. One question.
Just one question, Your Honor.
One question.
Madam Waters, what has Project 2025 done? What has Project 2025 done that has not been beneficial for everyone?
Nothing in 2025 is beneficial for people of color, for poor people, for people who basically have jobs, they get up and go to work to every day and don't make enough money. Project 2025, only the privileged people will have an opportunity to make more money and run more things and determine the direction of this country.
Isn't that what the Senate is doing now? Using the privilege that they have to buy extra, using the SEC to buy more, what do you call it?
I don't call it anything.
What was that, counsel?
Judge, I'm not objecting any more questions.
no.
Opposing counsel thinks she only has one question.
That was it, that's it. Thank you, Ms. Waters.
Call your next witness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attack, DEI. It bans workers' unions. Banning gender identity rights. It bans women's rights for her body. It takes funding from environmental justice. It bans slavery from books. It ends birthright citizenship. It ends FDA, EPA, and NOAA. Trump said that he didn't know about Project 2025. But his name is mentioned in Project 2025 over 100 times. That's just some facts for y'all.
Come on, Karen. Come on, Karen.
This is like climbing up a mountain, taking steps, barricades, jumping over obstacles, just to be pushed all the way back down, then stuck on some more. That's what Project 2025 does to us. Please do not let this go past us. Will we stand for something that is right, or will we let them have their way again and again and again? Thank you.
So, you need to find out, amongst yourselves, are you ruling in favor of the plaintiff or the defendant?
Two roles just to get together and debate.
How you want to do it?
Okay. These two roles, y'all are just those roles.
This ain't no debate. This is not happening, Project 2025. It's not happening. We reached the verdict. We're good over here.
Would like to be heard, and we're going to do that and allow anyone to respond to that. Is there anybody who wish to be heard regarding the relief that's being requested? If there are persons,
We reached the
please
verdict.
raise your hand.
That's all we can say.
All right. As soon as we hear from the jury, we're going to find out what the audience position is. All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached the verdict in this case? Yes. Have you proved the forfeit? Proved the forfeit.
Jury, all those in favor of the
Who's in favor of the plaintiff?
All right. Is there anyone in the well, let's find out whether or not the audience agrees or disagrees with the verdict rendered by the jury. All who agree with the verdict, please raise your hand. I believe I said make noise. All who disagree with the jury's verdict, please raise your hand.
There's like one.